unfortunately, you can't ask them about that experience because they don't. I recounted a story earlier to some folks that when the current incumbent greeted me at the State House, I came on the lobby and talked to him about some pretty important immigration issues that we had under our wing. He held up his hand and said, "I have nothing. I have no reason to listen to you." I don't want a senator or a representative like that. So this race is really important to me, and I'm sure it is to all of you. So thank you for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. As Terry said, we're going to do this a little bit differently. For one thing, we're going to leave all of these seats for the 5 people that said they would be here are not here. So we see that. We see what the candidate is saying to us, nothing. And you can make of that what you want, and you can make a comment about it if you like. We'll do that in just a minute. So the organization now will be that there are 5 areas of interest that MCU has selected for concentration in this forum. And there's a person in each of those 5 areas who also is a Senate District 15 constituent that will read the questions that would have been propounded to the candidate tonight. And then instead of having a candidate's position, since there's not one here, one of the MCU folks will provide the position that MCU takes on that issue. We'll do that, as I said, for about 5 subject matter areas: environmental justice, housing justice, immigrant justice, and immigration. Transformative justice. Sorry. When we finish that piece of the program, we'll turn over the program basically to you. During the main part of the program, there will be people coming in through the audience to pick up questions that you have written on postcards that you were given outside. And we'll put them together in an organization so that we can then propound the questions that you have and see what MCU's responses to that. So I think this is going to be fun. It's just a little different than anything I've been to before, and I imagine you too. I wanted to go over just a couple of ground rules, and please don't think that I'm insulting your intelligence, because this is really going to sound like what you learned in kindergarten. But I'm a member of Elliott Unitarian Chapel, and we begin each and every one of our meetings with a reminder of those basic things. And it really does make a difference, I believe, in how the discussion unfolds. So the most important thing is that we understand that we are here to engage in civil discourse. We can disagree with one another, but we have to be civil about it. We would like to have no shouting, booing, cheering, or applause. We're here to listen to my notes say we were here to listen to the candidates' positions, but it would just be more polite and also more efficient if we didn't have that kind of interchange. You're free to welcome people to come up to people afterwards and talk to them about what their position was and what you think about that. MCU is always looking for additional input. The other thing that I would ask you is not to interrupt one another. Most people have a chance to ask most of the things that they're most interested in, even if it's not in the format that you drafted, because often there are questions from the audience on this, close to the same question on a particular topic. So just be nice to each other and do what your mom told you to do at home, and you'll be fine. With that, I think we should start with what would have been the opening statements of the candidates, but they're not here, and I'm not going to deliver one for them, and I'm sure Terry's not. So we'll skip that, which will give us a little more time for our discussion, and go to the MCU questions. And the first person to ask one of these questions is Charles, I'll mangle your last name, Classic, who is going to give us a question on environmental justice. Do I have that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
And you did just fine. That was much better than most people do. My question has to do with environmental justice, and the question to the candidate was to be, what policies would you support that hold companies and individuals responsible for illegal dumping of trash and other pollutants into our clean water, air, and land? Thank you.
And I believe we have Beth to provide the MCU response. Yes? No?
Hi there. Beth has recruited me to respond to this question. My name is Kelly, and I'm an MCU leader working in environmental justice. I'd like to say that MCU believes in clean land, air, and water, and illegal dumping compromises the clean air or the clean land in our communities. It introduces toxins into our living environments and devalues property. It strains local governments who are left to foot the bill for cleanup, and it dehumanizes the people in the communities where trash is illegally dumped. Dumping is not a burden that is shared equally. Individuals and companies dump waste in communities where they don't live to avoid fines, not fines, but fees for disposing. There's lots of reasons that people dump, but that's kind of a big issue. This is a justice issue because dumping is not a burden that is shared equally in our communities, in our city, in our state. Oftentimes, dumping occurs in communities that are already impacted by poverty, and they have to clean up their community, or it further devalues their community. It happens in rural communities as well that also lack resources to address the issue. So we need elected officials to enact policies that hold these people accountable. We need money to address dumping and cleanup in communities that are already impacted, and we need better enforcement. I wish our candidates were here tonight to hear that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Now, Charles, my notes say that you have a second question. Do you? Christina Huntsman.
Hello, my name is Christina Kuntzman, and the second environmental justice question is...
Could I stop you for just a minute? Can everybody hear her? No. Okay. So maybe if you speak louder and get very close to the microphone, closer than you think is right.
My name is Christina Kuntzman, and I'm with MCU. And my question is, in 2018 and 2019, your community had an average of 17 cases each year of lead poisoning that were tested and reported. If this is the average in all 114 counties reporting to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, this is negatively impacting the children in Missouri and their families. What would you do to resolve the lead problem in Missouri, and what policy would you put in place to increase protection for Missouri children? Thank you.
Thank you. And the MCU response?
Yes, good evening. I'm Mandy LeBrier with the Heartland Environmental Justice Center. MCU is a partner organization in our Midwestern region. And first and foremost, as we all know, lead is prevalent in aging infrastructure in St. Louis communities. It's a fact that it's in our buildings and it's in our water. Every citizen, especially St. Louis children, need safe buildings and safe water. MCU believes in environmental safety of our community and is addressing lead removal by organizing people in the St. Louis region around environmental justice issues like lead removal. What's most important is that constituents in our region and in our state vote, and that when they vote for environmental justice issues like lead removals. What we need in St. Louis and what we need in our state is candidates that show up for our communities.
So our next subject of interest is housing justice. And Reverend Rebecca, are you here? Yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rebecca Plummy Elisari, and Isaiah 58, the food pantry housed at my church, Compton Heights Christian Church, provides referrals to people at risk of losing housing due to high utility costs. Community solar would help many Missourians. Senate Bill 27 and House Bill 2574, which have already been presented to the floor in Jeff City, would create community solar pilot programs. If elected, how do you plan to address the need for community solar energy rebates in IRA funding?
Thank you. The MC response? And if you would start with your name, it would help me a lot. Thank you.
Reverend Kevin D. Anthony, and I'm with MCU. And it seems to me that solar energy is critically important as we recognize that there are so many communities of black and brown people who cannot afford the normal electrical rates that are going on right now. People are looking for jobs to make sure that they can maintain their homes, and so to be able to do that, the solar systems or the solar panels or pilot programs would be play an integral role in developing that and helping families who live in poverty to be able to have good homes with solar energy. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, we're going to provide a new and different way of looking at what we're doing here tonight.
Good evening, everybody. So what do you think so far? We're already getting some really important issues out on the table, don't you think? And that's just the start of this evening. You heard just a moment ago from each of the people who answered those questions how important it was to get out to vote. And I'm here to offer you a little bit of energy and support to help you do so. My name is Denise Lieberman. I'm the director of the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. We are Missouri's nonpartisan state voting rights network that includes over 70 affiliated organizations. And I'm so proud to say that the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition partners with MCU to help make sure that the voices of faithful communities are heard. Now, you heard the first couple of questions about how important environmental justice is, and there's more to come because we know that the issues that are facing our community are impacting all of us. Whether they're affecting you individually, they're probably affecting somebody in your community. They're probably affecting someone in your neighborhood. They're probably affecting somebody in your family. They're probably affecting someone you know. And they're probably affecting someone in your church. And the issues that we're talking about tonight get to the very heart of why all of you support Metropolitan Congregations United. Because MCU is out doing the work to uplift the power of everybody's voice. And that's what the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition does as well. And so I'm not going to stay very long. I'm here with students from Washington University, and we have to actually get back for another event this evening. But I want to encourage you to take what you're hearing tonight. I do believe these empty chairs are a powerful statement of, well, perhaps some of the malaise that we're seeing, not just from voters, but even from our elected officials. And that's a shame. But you know, somebody once said, when they go low, we go high. This is a nonpartisan event, but I think you all know who I'm talking about. And that's because regardless of whether these people show up, we need you to show up, okay? You're here because you care about the issues affecting your community. Don't let these empty chairs keep you from making your voice heard, because your vote is your voice. One reason why we came out from the city of St. Louis today, out here to Wildwood, where we don't get to all that often. It's really exciting to meet so many great people from the 15th Senatorial District. This is an open seat. This is an opportunity to make a change right here in your own community. If you are sick and tired of the malaise that you are seeing right here, there is something that you can do about it. You can show up on August 6th and cast your ballot. If you pledge to do one thing today, I want you to make a pledge to yourself, to your community, to your neighbors, and to all the people who didn't have the means or the opportunity to make it here tonight. Speak for them too. And that is the power of our faith-based communities in fighting for our freedom to vote. Because at the end of the day, our right to vote is not so much about Democrats and Republicans and vitriol. And it's not even about the people who should be sitting in those chairs. At the end of the day, the right to vote is something that belongs to each and every one of us. And it belongs to all the people who couldn't make it here tonight. Who couldn't make it here tonight because they didn't have access to transportation, because they didn't have access to childcare, not because they don't care. And what we know is that our right to vote has been under assault. The voting is way more complicated than it needs to be. And my friend right here is holding up a poster. Holding it up. With a quote from one of our favorite people, DeMarco Davidson. If your vote wasn't so important, millionaires wouldn't be spending all of their time and money trying to make it harder for you to participate. So here's what I want you to do, and I want you to remember, as disillusioned as you might be by this, you are having the conversation that this community needs to have tonight, whether these folks are here or not. You are making these changes in your community, because the right to vote is ultimately about basic human dignity. If you are part of a faith tradition that seeks to uplift the least of these in our communities, if you are part of a faith tradition that is working to build the beloved community, if you are part of a faith tradition like my own that believes in tikkun olam, which means repairer of the world, that we all have a duty to do so, then keep in mind that all of the vitriol you're seeing is not what voting is about. Voting is the way that we tell members of our community that you count, that you matter. And each and every one of you matters. Each and every one of you counts, and so does every member of this district who's not here tonight. So I want you, and I'm going to leave you with this. We have provided some information. The Missouri Voter Protection Coalition doesn't take a position on candidates. We just want you to get out and vote and make your voices heard, because that is how we make our communities better. It is how we address all of the issues that you are talking about today, from environmental justice to housing to restorative justice to immigration justice and more. There are a few things you should know. How many people are registered to vote? All right. That's good. If you know somebody who isn't, and I bet you do, help them get registered to vote. The deadline to register to vote is Wednesday, July 7th for the August 6th elections, okay? You should know, absentee voting begins on June 25th. You may be out of town in August. You may have to work. You may have other things you need to do. We have information outside on the tables about how you can request an absentee ballot and cast your ballot before Election Day. We have information about your rights as a voter. What kind of ID you need to show at the polls. When are polling places open? How do you find out where you can cast your ballot? Please pick this information up. And if you have any questions, the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition runs the nonpartisan election protection hotline for the state of Missouri. These calls are answered by attorneys that can provide you information in real time. If you need to know whether your registration is up to date, if you need to know where your polling place is located, if you need to just confirm that you have the right form of ID to vote, you can call us at 866-OUR-VOTE. In the meantime, we're going into communities to help educate people. We're fighting for our rights in the courts. We just finished trial challenging strict photo ID requirements to vote in Missouri. We're going to trial this summer to fight against efforts to make it harder for groups like MCU to register people to vote. And we are working to help make sure that everybody's voice can be heard. Because unless everybody has a seat at the table, we are not a true democracy. And until everybody has a seat at the table, we cannot build the beloved community together. Thank you.
Well, I think we should give her a round of applause for identifying the most important things we can do. I think I'm supposed to say now that's a hard act to follow. So I'll just acknowledge that. And I'm glad we had somebody here that could not only tell us why it's important to vote, but also give the information about how we go about doing it or asking questions about it. And you should feel free to use those resources. I've done it myself more than once, and they're just great, really helpful. Now we get to return to the subject matter questions, and we had finished the housing justice, right? So we're moving on now to, am I right about that, guys? Okay. So the next area is immigrant justice, and I believe it's Imelda Gonzalez that is going to ask the question. Oh, hold on a minute. Can you go to one of the mics? Yeah, or you can hold it if you want.
So my name is Aya Kawasaki. I'm from Grace United Methodist Church. The COVID pandemic exposed the lack of public services and information about public services available to Missourians with limited English proficiency. What we will do to ensure that services and information are accessible to people with limited English proficiency.
Thank you. And now the MCU response.
Good evening. My name is David Grossman, and I'm with Christ Church Maplewood. We're actually in the process of changing our name to Kindred UCC. And this question, really about immigration, is about the beloved community, about coming together, about kindred, and it is about giving respect to those who are strangers in our midst. My church, back in 2017, provided sanctuary to an undocumented immigrant. And this was in coordination with a number of other churches, with many of our congregation members, and we thought it was important at that time to protect this person, protect the family that they were with, from being deported by the government at the time, under the Trump administration. And so that person stayed in sanctuary in our church for from 2017 until 2020. And then after the election of President Biden, we got information from the immigration service that they would not pursue any kind of action against him. So I think it's very important that we understand the difficulties that immigrants go through. It's important to understand that this country was based on an inflow of immigrants. My guess is that most of you, many of you, come from immigration, from families from outside of the United States. And I think that's an important part of building this country, of who we are, and not to dehumanize those who come from another place and who have difficulty in speaking English.
I have to insert an editorial comment here. I was a member of one of the churches that participated with Maplewood in the sanctuary movement. And if you want an example of how a group of church folks can work miracles, it's the story of Alex Garcia. At the end of the process, they were able to get a commitment from the government that they would not remove him from the United States. Now, he still doesn't have citizenship. That's a whole other issue. But he could live here legally, and he doesn't have to worry about going across the street and getting picked up by ICE. It was absolutely, it was transformative for me to see what people can do just by working hard at it and having a lot of love in their hearts, which Maplewood UCC does. I'd like to give a round of applause for that. Okay, do we have a second question for immigrant justice? Thank you.
So I am going to do the second question. Missouri history is full of stories of immigrants who helped build our state into what it is today. This Senate district is more than 11% foreign-born, almost triple the state rate of foreign-born residents, with thousands of naturalized citizens residing in the district, contributing to our economy. If elected, what will be your top priorities in regard to immigrants?
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I would like the MCU response, please. If there's anyone out there that would like to give that. Well, after Denise's talk, I think it's pretty hard to come up with any other great ideas, but I'll just say immigrant justice is near and dear to my heart, and I hope it is to you folks too. These are people that just want a chance to take care of their family and go to bed without worrying about gunshots. And that's the real truth. In fact, just last Saturday, the St. Louis Committee on Latin America and the MICA Project, which is basically a pro bono law firm for immigrants, had held what we called a pro se clinic. And that was an invitation to both immigrants that were starting the asylum seeking process to come to my church. We housed it there, and get help with filling out their asylum application. And the invitation was also sent out to a bunch of lawyers to come and walk them through that application process, because it's pretty daunting. And I was there Saturday as well, and that was just another way of feeling like I really can make a difference in these people's lives. You guys can too. So thank you for both of those questions. Is there anyone else who wants to add anything from the MCU perspective? Okay, I think we've probably said enough. The last issue, I'm not sure that we have anyone here for, but it's transformative justice. Do we have a questioner? Oh, good. Thank you.
I'm Sheena Eastburn. I'm from Moore Square. If I was a returning citizen on probation and parole in the community, do you feel I have a right to vote?
That was succinct. Do we have someone from MCU that could provide a succinct answer? Or position?
And as a community leader at MCU, it is our stance that anyone in our community who is a contributing member of society, working and paying taxes, should have a voice in electing for public officials. The current state of our criminal justice system is broken, and alienation only encourages further delinquency and the criminal mentality.
Thank you. Thank you to all of the people that delivered the questions tonight and the MCU responses. I think it was much more informative than what I would have expected from the people that are not here. My personal opinion. At this point now, we are going to turn the program over to a slightly different format, and that's to read and answer the audience questions that you've prepared during this session here. I won't say that moderating is a contact sport, but you do have to be prepared for changes. We have a candidate for a different position in Missouri who is joining us, and he will answer the questions. So sorry.
Did you hear what my name was? No. Okay, I'll repeat it. My name's Anastasia Sayas, and I'm running for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. Why am I running? I'd like to bring a brighter freedom and democracy to Missouri. As a human rights consultant with a background in healthcare, grant writing, religious education, I have multifacets of experiences that Jefferson City needs. I've advocated for human beings' rights and environmental and economic development. I've advocated for civil rights to social justices for over 30 years. I'm also a kindergarten graduate. I graduated with an O for outstanding. which led me to college and universities with 2 degrees, one graduating summa cum laude and the other one magna cum laude. I have a passion for early childhood development, which is a board that I will speak on. I have a passion for farmlands because I grew up on a farm in Louisiana. I have a passion for drug-addicted people because I know that underneath the addiction is a root cause, and we have a lot of problems with addiction in Missouri. We have a lot of problems with crime in Missouri. And in order for me to work on any board that advocates for economic development here in Missouri, we first must fix crime. We first must have stricter gun laws. We first must make our environment safe enough for somebody to want to open a business here and come to live here with freedoms for democracy. As a candidate for Lieutenant Governor, I promise that I will advocate hard for your voting rights. I will advocate hard for your environmental rights. And I will advocate hard for your children's educational rights. I do have a zero plan of no tolerance for human trafficking. I feel if anybody takes a kid from the age of 0 to 18, they need to be locked up for life. I also feel that they should do away with Missouri's execution, the death penalty. God is the only giver of life, and the Lord is the only taker of life. I am your candidate for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. My name is Anastasia Sides, and I hope that you vote for me on August 6th. I need your vote in the primary, and hopefully I'll be there November 5th.
So as I said, one has to be kind of on their feet at an event like this. And so what we're going to do with respect to the audience questions is I'm going to read them to you so that we know what's on people's minds tonight. And they will be later transmitted to the candidates to see if they want to give an answer. The first one is, what does equity look like to you for everyone in your district? The second is, over 380,000 Missourians signed the ballot initiative to end Missouri's abortion ban. Do you support ending the ban? This last one is wonderful, but fairly long, so bear with me. And one of the things that this audience participant has asked is talk about innovations in environmental law, and they typically start at the state level. 24 states have enacted innovative and ambitious environmental justice laws. 34 states have some climate measure in place. Only 16 lacked any sort of environmental justice principles in their decision making. Missouri, probably not to be a surprise to you, is one of those 16. States who have enacted legislation such as a constitutional amendment for environmental rights, an environmental task force, permitting reform, the cumulative impact assessments report, and also economic returns. Those are the things that she suggests that we look at. And so the question is this: which of these legislative actions do you think would work for Missouri? And who are you willing to work with to address our need to create an environmentally resilient Missouri? So, again, a rousing silence from our candidates so far. I think at this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to DeMarco. No? Oh, okay. Great.
All right. Thank you all for being here. My name is Beth Gutzler. I'm with Metropolitan Congregations United as one of our organizers. And I want to bring back Terry Knies. Terry and I traveled to Nashville to go to advanced leadership training through the Gamaliel Network. This was an opportunity to think beyond a basic leadership training about what we feel or what we felt was the next thing to do. And so I'm going to have Terry share for just a minute or two about that experience, and then we're going to talk about our action on the screen.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, it was a great week that we spent in Nashville. I would say what we're trying to really do is build up a base of people. So anybody who is in the St. Louis area can get connected with MCU. We need to build a strong base of like-minded people to bring about the change that we need in the state of Missouri.
So again, I just wanted to let you guys turn to the screen. This is something that will be live and active after this event. It's going to be an opportunity for you to do text banking. So integrated voter engagement is a way for us to talk about the issues even before a primary, right? Conversations don't just start when the election happens, correct? Okay, so we want to make sure for those of you that do have your cell phones, are familiar with QR codes, you save these sites so that you are able to text constituents of the 15th Missouri State Senate District your opinion, your real story about what happened tonight. Tonight is the conversation about what is important to this particular community and those that will be impacted by the decisions of this person. So again, for those that may not be familiar, this is going to be an app function similar to those that you might have done with your local restaurant or things of that nature. It is just setting up a way for you to activate and have safety and security, and then you would be able to log in and you would be able to talk to people and tell them about what happened this evening. So again, I will turn the mic over to DeMarco Davidson.
All right. First of all, good evening, everyone. My name is DeMarco Davidson. I'm the Executive Director for Metropolitan Congregations United. First and foremost, I just wanted to thank every single one of you all for being here this evening. This is we asked multiple Senate District 15 residents, voters. When was the last time you've had a candidate forum in your community? They can't remember. So anytime you start something new, when you attempt to develop and build power somewhere new, it's going to be a little scarce, it'll be challenging, but it's not impossible. And you all are proving that it's not impossible. You all are the possible that's showing up. So I thank every single one of you. I thank the staff, the leaders, all of those from Gamaliel. We are Gamaliel. We shared all the information with all of the candidates at the same time. Let them know that this is a national platform. There are several states. We have Missouri. Make some noise, Missouri. Kansas. I think we got Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. Yeah, make some noise, Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania in the house. Who else we got? We got Michigan. Yeah, we got Michigan. Illinois. Yeah, who else? Sadie, Maryland. Tennessee. You say California. Listen, coast to coast. Showing up in Missouri. There's something happening here. they didn't stop. This is being recorded, so this will be sent out to everyone as well. And this text function, I actually talked with the person who was working on creating it. Originally, we only had 20,000 text messages to send out. After tonight, I was like, no, cut it off. There are 120,000 voters in State Senate District 15. I want all 120,000 of them to hear from us. So, we will, for those, everyone who's registered, you will receive an email to let you all know when it's live. And when it's live, you text people, text everyone, let them know. And the prompt is very simple. We go stay 501c3. We stay 501c3 compliant for now. No, but the prompt will be this. MCU has first candidate forum in State Senate District 15. We will have another one after the primary. Which issue would you like your state senator to be champion of? That's it, right? We will make sure that everyone knows. But also, before we leave tonight, I want to leave off, again, say thank you, but I want to leave off with someone who I've admired, but also I want her to share some information that is pivotal for all of the issues that we've discussed, that we've shared, but specifically the transformative justice and immigration justice, housing justice issues. I would like for her to come up. This is State Rep Kimberly Ann Collins. Come on up. And I want you all to really listen to the information that she's about to share. It literally can be life-changing and life-saving for hundreds, if not thousands. And with that, after her, wish you all a good night. Take us home.
Good evening, good evening. What an honor it is to be here in Senate District 15. I am your state representative, Kimberly Ann Collins, and I wholeheartedly and passionately and unapologetically and most importantly, I intentionally represent the entire city of St. Louis in the Missouri House of Representatives. And I come out of District 77. I was elected at the age of 25. I am 30 now. But I got into politics because first I said, who's doing something around homelessness in the city of St. Louis? That was my theme, homelessness. And some of you may not know this, for those individuals that are from outside of the state of Missouri, I opened up a homeless shelter and I run a 24-hour emergency shelter every winter, and it's ran by donations and volunteers. But I'm not a 501c3 or anything, and so we really are just running off of faith. But we know that we had to do something, and sometimes your political privilege allows you to be able to garner a lot of support and reach a lot of people. And so we've tried to push legislation around unhoused Bill of Rights, and I know the city of St. Louis has a lot of dialogue going back and forth about unhoused Bill of Rights and legislation around opening up homeless shelters and safe havens, domestic violence shelters, whatever you have it. Coming into office, homelessness was my thing, and then I ended up finding out that my niche was corrections. And so I do a lot of work around correctional reform. I do a lot of work around judiciary reform, prison reform, criminal justice reform. They call me the prison queen in the state of Missouri. And so I looked at this state statute, and it is state statute 217.265. And you can look this up. And so this statute allows any state elected official, lieutenant governor, governor, anyone that serves on a state level to go inside of the correctional facilities at any time, for any reason, on any given day, without giving notification over to DOC, right? And so the state of Missouri has 19 correctional facilities and 2 treatment centers, one in Kansas City and one in St. Louis. And so what I've done is I've executed my right to go inside of the correctional facilities. And at first, I know, right? At first, DOC was kind of giving me some pushback, and I had to tell them what was inside state statute. So now I don't have those issues anymore. And so I go into the correctional facilities to, one, do my own oversight, because we've pushed legislation to offer a DOC oversight committee, because we know that some of our state departments need oversight. Actually, all of our state departments need oversight. But the more and more you push for oversight, the more and more they push back. And so we pushed for oversight my freshman year being in the state legislature, and we got families from all over the state that came and gave testimony about their loved ones being incarcerated, about different issues that they were having, about how they wanted to see reform on the inside of the correctional facilities. So that bill didn't make it out of committee, and quite frankly, the chair of the committee, who was a Republican, just sat on it. And we could have passed it out of committee because we had so much support. We even had bipartisan support from other elected officials that sit on the other side of the aisle. So within that, I said, well, I'm just doing my own oversight. So I started going into the correctional facilities. I started looking at and trying to find everything that was wrong with DOC, and I found a lot of stuff. But then I also realized I had to build relationships with the DOC wardens. I realized I had to build relationships with not just the wardens, the deputy wardens, the FUMs, which are the function unit managers, also other DOC staff, but most importantly, I had to build relationships with the inmates. And coming off of those relationships, I learned on what legislation I could be pushing at the state level to help reduce the number of individuals that we see in our prison system. So we push legislation like geriatric release. Ms. Sheena has been working on this compassionate release legislation, in which a lot of the correctional reform pieces of legislation we do have bipartisan support on. We push legislation like good time credit. This past year, we had a huge omnibus DOC bill, which included my good time credit, which would allow and enable offenders who are participating in different restorative justice programs, any type of educational programs, college courses, because there are some colleges who are inside of the DOC facilities, as well as inmates that just had good behavior and a good institutional scoring record. And so those individuals would be able to see good time credit on their record and be able to have some type of parole relief. And so good time credit is a form of parole relief, getting individuals closer to home earlier than they would have thought that they were going home. We also pushed in our DOC omnibus bill, we had no shackling of pregnant women in the jails, because we've already passed the no shackling of pregnant women in the prisons. And talking about pregnant women in prisons, we did pass the DOC prison nursery bill that would allow moms and babies to be able to spend 18 months with each other in Vandalia Correctional Center, which is now our prison nursery program. Which is now a prison nursery program. It is a 14-bed unit. We have to put that in statute, but also back it up with some budgetary funds, right? We have to put some things in the budget to back that up to make that program into reality. And then we also had that DOC omnibus bill legislation that would reduce the shackling of children in courtrooms. And then we also had legislation that would enable DOC to work with the Department of Revenue to make sure the individuals had the correct and appropriate documentation that they needed to come out of the prison system to re-enter back into society. So birth certificates, driver's license, anything that people needed for housing purposes, employment purposes. And so that bill had bipartisan support. It passed out of the House, and then it went over to the Senate, and this year was the year of filibusters in the Senate. It was a year of filibusters in the Senate to protect our rights for abortion, our rights for reproductive freedom, to make sure that those rights weren't stripped away. And so the Senate did everything that they could. They filibustered, and that bill ended up dying because it was one vote away from getting to the governor's desk. We did push and stretch for legislation that would open up the door and the window for individuals who are on probation or parole to be able to vote. So Ms. Denise was correct. We pushed that legislation, and it was bipartisan legislation, but it couldn't even make it out of committee, even though it was bipartisan. You had a committee chair that just kind of sat on it. So when they talk about your right to vote, when they talk about individuals showing up to the ballot box to vote, that's a real thing in real time. But let me just say this. These candidates are not here today. And not only is it important to show up to vote, but you all can even show up in 2 more years to the Secretary of State's office in February, right? You can show up on one Tuesday in February and you can put yourself on the ballot because you showed up today. And my mother once told me, and I say this all the time, my mother once told me that showing up is half the battle. They didn't even complete 50% of the battle, right? 50% of the battle is showing up. The other 50% of the battle is how you choose to represent yourself when you show up in specific spaces. And so I'm a believer of second chances. I'm a believer of prison reform, correctional reform, all of those good things. I do a lot of reentry work. I have a job fair coming up in Algoa Correctional Facility this month, at the end of this month. And we're gonna rock and roll and bring resources from all parts of the state for those individuals to take part. And those inmates asked me two things. When I went up there for the Global Leadership Conference, they asked me, they said, can you bring financial literacy? And can you bring a resource fair with jobs and housing opportunities for us? I also want to uplift that within talking about reentry, I do a lot of work around drug and substance use in the state of Missouri. And I'm a firm believer of recovery support services. Recovery Works is a 365-day type of initiative, type of thing. Recovery is lifelong. There are over 60 recovery support providers in the state of Missouri, over 60. And historically, the state of Missouri has funded treatment more than they have funded recovery. And so I always tell individuals that Narcan is good because it helps save a life in that moment. Getting someone into clinical treatment is even better, but making sure someone has a pathway towards recovery. So what we did this year is we put a 1.8 increase, in which we were aiming for a $10 million increase, but Republicans played us again. But we got that 1.8 increase for rate and equity alignment. And that's just to make sure that recovery beds are receiving the same type of reimbursement as clinical treatment beds, because recovery support providers also offer the same type of services as clinical treatment services. I also want to say that in my district, in the 77th district in North City, St. Louis, I'm not going to keep you too long, I got 45 seconds of it, we have is what is called the access site for drug and substance use. And that's for anyone suffering from any addictions. It is an effort made by the Child and Family Empowerment Center. It's also where my homeless shelter is in the wintertime. So individuals coming in that think they're just getting a hot meal in a cot, some of those individuals are coming in to do intake. Some of those individuals are coming in to do their Missouri alcohol treatment assessment. And some of those individuals are coming in to do their drug treatment assessment to see if they need to go get into clinical treatment or to see if they can go straight to recovery. And so I'm a firm believer in showing up. I appreciate you all listening to me, and I have business cards if anybody wants to stay connected with me, and thank you.
I guess we're just winding it down now. Thanks everybody for showing up, and we appreciate it. It didn't go exactly as planned, but we worked through and got some good information tonight. So thank you all for coming.